top 3 for each position. We did catchers yesterday. We've been working our way around, and now we are looking at top 3 starting pitchers, keeping in mind just their time with the Phillies and the numbers and performance and accolades that they were a part of. So starting things off at number 3 for our pitchers, this is an iconic name, which was such a classic name in the early 1900s, Mr. Grover Cleveland Pete Alexander himself.
I like how they throw the Pete in there.
I know. This is such a classic early 1900s name. He played with the Phillies from 1911 and 1917 and then again in 1930. So 8 total years with the Phillies, 280 starts, was 190 and 91 was his record with a 2.18 ERA. He pitched for 2,513 and 2/3 innings with a 1.07 whip and over 1,400 strikeouts, having 2.51 strikeouts per walk, and led the league 5 times in strikeouts, 6 times in inning pitched, 5 times in, I can't read words, strikeouts, and 5 times in wins. Grover Cleveland, one of the best pitchers to ever come through the Phillies, one of the best in his time, and someone that has had such a remarkable career. That 2.18 ERA with the team, second all time, top all time, third most in wins all time, top in strikeouts, top in a number of areas, and definitely someone that dealt with a lot, especially even in his time period. He dealt with hearing loss and the war-related epilepsy and a lot that was going on in the early 1900s, also some alcohol issues, but it's still a Hall of Fame career that Grover Cleveland had, and definitely deserving of being on this top 3 list.
Yeah, there's some really good pitchers. I mean, when you talk about Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Kurt Schilling, some of these guys, it's hard to exclude them, but I think a plaque in Cooperstown is probably a deciding factor. You have to go off of the guy's era, and as you said, he's one of the best of his era. Was absolutely filthy. Won the pitching triple crown for 3 consecutive years. I mean, that's just absolute filth. His ERA over 2,000 plus innings is disgusting. So here's a quote. His sinking fastball seemed fashioned from cement, Roger Kahn wrote in the book The Head Game. No one consistently hit it into the air. So he had a sinking fastball that nobody could touch back then. And, it made him one of the best pitchers ever. It's one of those names that's just synonymous with baseball. Everybody seems to know it. And the Phillies' top 3 pitchers are all pretty great.
Yeah, and I know you guys are asking about that time period. It's wild to think. You have to keep in perspective where things were in the world during the time of these pitchers, especially in the early 1900s. So after the 1917 season, America was at war in Europe. Phillies owner at the time, William Baker, was worried that he might lose Alexander to the draft. He sent him to the Cubs as part of a 4-player trade that netted the Phillies a whopping $65,000. And
that was probably a lot of coin back then.
It was. And he was correct because Grover Cleveland only played in 3 games in 1918 for Chicago before being sent off to war as the Great War was going on during that time. So it's wild to think about. Of course, there were team moves, but there was also a whole war happening at that time that also caused guys like Grover Cleveland to have to pause their baseball career.
Great name. Definitely
go
passed
off to
the
war,
name test.
And then come back to pitch. So, yeah, one of the best to pitch in baseball. One of the best definitely to pitch for the Phillies. All right, number 2, and you guys are guessing in the chat. I'm curious to know your thoughts on number 2 and number 1. Number 2 for us, though, we're going with Robin Roberts. 14 years. Don't make me laugh.
All I do is look at you.
14 years with the Phillies, 472 starts, had a 234 and 199 record, a 3.46 ERA, over 3,700 innings pitched, had a 1.171 whip, 1,871 strikeouts, which is 2.61 strikeouts per walk. 6 times he pitched over 300 innings. 6 times he had over 20 wins. And is that an 8 or 5?
That's an 8.
8 times.
I catch a 9er in there.
I can't.
I'm not even going to ask you what movie, Renee.
No, so I'm trying to get. 8 times 20 plus completed games and 35 strikeouts.
Shutouts.
Shutouts. I can't read words. So yes, when you look at Robin Roberts, Robin Roberts definitely had a remarkable career with the Phillies. He also was part of the Whiz Kids, one of the originals, and one of the greatest.
Yeah, a complete game machine. He once threw 28 consecutive complete games, which is just kind of bonkers to think about in terms of today's game, where complete games are hardly even accomplished anymore.
It's not a thing anymore.
Here's, I think, all I need to say about this, and then I'll let Tyler chime in. This is a quote from this guy named Willie Mays. Pretty good baseball player. Some consider him one of the best ever.
I've heard of him.
Yeah,
He was
people have
pretty
heard
good.
of him. He was the top pitcher at that time. Quote, end quote. When Willie Mays says you're the best pitcher of your time, that includes Warren Spahn and Early Wynn and Whitey Ford and Bob Lemon and Don Newcomb, Robin Roberts was as good as anyone. He led the league in strikeouts, innings pitched, shutouts. He was only second to Warren Spahn. His ERA was consistently top 5. He was just a monster, one of the best pitchers of his era, and a top 3 Phillies pitcher of all time. Tyler?
Yeah, so last year, the leader in complete games was Sandy Alcantara and Jordan Lyles.
Last year?
Last year.
Alcantara did that many? I'm going to go with 4.
I was going to say 3.
3.
3, okay.
He had 3. Jordan Lyles had 3. A handful of guys had 2, and then a whole bunch of dudes had 1.
That's wild.
Listen, I understand it's a different time
Sure.
and era, and it just doesn't work that way anymore. But like the era of throwing 300 innings, let me rephrase that. The era of throwing 200 innings is an accomplishable feat in today's game. And this guy, for 6 consecutive years, went over 300 innings, 304, 315, 330, 346. You get my point. And he led the league in innings pitched 5 consecutive years. So, like, on top of the fact that even in his era, he was throwing a lot of innings, 30 complete games, 33 complete games, led the league in shutouts one year with 5, and then didn't lead the league in shutouts the next year with 6. I think that this guy is almost undervalued when you talk about the great arms of all time because, he piled up some losses. He does have 245 losses. He consecutively led the league in losses with 18 and 22. They were 2, rough years in 56 and 57. But 6 consecutive years, he won 20 or more games. The numbers that mattered in his era, he accomplished.
Yeah.
The numbers that matter now are not the same as the 1950s and 1960s. But when you're talking about guys in that era, wins were big, innings pitched were big, complete games were big. He accomplished it all.
Willie Mays quote.
Yeah.
Willie Mays quote, yes.
End of story.
So per season from 1950 to 55, as you were talking about, Tyler, this is remarkable that he averaged 322 innings, 27 complete games, won at least 20 games.
322.
320. Ranger was talking about just hoping to get over 200 innings. 322 innings. That's insane. And kept his ERA consistently at or below a 3. And then in one stretch from 1952 to 53, it gets even more remarkable, is that he went the distance in 28 straight starts, including one outing in which he pitched for 17 innings. It's just a totally different ball game this era compared to back then. Now, our final spot.
Big mystery. Who's coming here?
Real quick, guys, here's one more stat for you. Currently active pitchers, 5 active pitchers. Now, I don't believe that they are including Zach Greinke, who I believe would be on this list, but I think they have officially announced he's retired now. 5 active pitchers have double-digit complete games in their career. This guy had multiple years of 30-plus.
That's insane.
Verlander leads all active pitchers with complete games. He has 26.
Robin Roberts did it 28 straight times.
Well, I do want to say, yes, I have seen Tommy Boy, by the way. I just cannot give you a quote from it. So
Did I catch a 9er in there?
yeah, I can't. I don't know the quotes from Tommy Boy, but I wasn't a big fan of the movie. But you know who I was a big fan of?
Don't
And you
say
guys
that.
are right in your guess for number 1 because it's lefty Steve Carlton. All right, Steve Carlton, who the Phillies received in 1972 for a whopping amount of money because the Cardinals refused to give him at the time a $10,000 raise. And because
Idiots.
the Cardinals refused to give him that $10,000 raise, the Phillies took him off their hands, and the rest was history. 15 years with the Phillies, just under 500 starts, had a 241, 161 record, a 309 ERA, pitched for almost 3,700 innings. He had a 1.211 whip, 3,031 strikeouts. He also had a 2.42 strikeout to walk, 4-time Cy Young winner, which is the third most, and also had 185 complete games and 39 shutouts. And for Steve Lefty Carlton, listen, thank you, Cardinals, for not giving him that $10,000 raise, because the Phillies gladly took him off your hands, and we're glad to have him leading this club for 15 years.
Yeah, Lefty. You know, like, it's synonymous. He's probably the best. Him and I would take him over Koufax, but you know, he's in Spawn. One of the Koufax was a short period of time, short career. Tyler gave me the cross.
You're missing one. I mean, it's. I still think
Randy
Carlton's
Johnson?
one, but Randy Johnson's the other one you have to consider.
Yeah, Randy's
I mean,
definitely
the guy
up there.
won Cy Young's into his 40s.
Yeah, Randy Johnson's up
So
there.
like,
But
to me, it's those two.
I probably would go Lefty. Look, I didn't get to watch Lefty play, but he won 4 National League Cy Young awards. Gary Matthews has one of the great quotes of all time about Lefty. We called it win day. Whenever he would take the mound, the team just assumed they were going to win. He's just incredible. A 13-year stretch with the Phillies.
Wild. So
not only does he get the longevity, but 230 plus wins in that time. He has a career 65.4 WAR. Only 2 pitchers of his era ranked better than that, was Phil Niekro and Burt Blyleven. Just one of the best seasons ever in baseball history in 1972. He won 27 games with a sub-2 ERA. Lefty, man. He's got one of the best nicknames in all of baseball.
You know what's kind of funny about that move that Renee, you were talking about, because they wouldn't give him a raise? The Phillies traded Rick Wise to St. Louis to go get Steve Carlton. Rick Wise had a pretty good 2-year run with the Cardinals. He won 32 games. He had 3.1 and a 3.7 ERA. He was an All-Star in 71 with the Phillies. Was an All-Star in 73 with the Cardinals. Pretty good run. I mean, like, you acquire Rick Wise, you go, okay, this is a good arm. And then Steve Carlton, all he does is win 27 games, lead the league in earned ERA, complete games, innings pitched, strikeouts. Like 1972 is one of the greatest seasons of all time for any pitcher ever. And you go, wow, we really wish we didn't have Rick Wise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lefty, good at baseball. That's what they said about him.